Right, okay. Now I'm going to talk about koans, which is Koan, I think. I think that's the right way to pronounce it anyway. Which come from Buddhism, which are basically like little meditation puzzles, I suppose, really. An example is the sound of one hand clapping, or to hell as straight as narrow. And it's also tied in with a lot of the deeper Buddhist stories and things that are told in little folk wisdom books that you buy in sort of alternative shops and that kind of thing. So basically, you're given a koan when you're a Buddhism student. This is, well, this one's going to be about Zen specifically, I suppose, really, more than other types of Buddhism. But they all tie in, really. So you're given a koan, which is basically like a little one sentence of nonsensical seeming word. It's not so much random words as I say, the sound of one hand clapping, which seems an absurdity, impossible. Although Bart Simpson does this, so you know, just shows there's more interpretation to it than you think. And anyway, to hell as straight as narrow, that's another one. And there's also all these stories. The main thing about them is the folk stories. So my favourite one out of all these stories is the student asked the master, what did the great masters of old find at the ultimate stage when they reached the absolute pinnacle of the Buddha mind? Okay, remember that the Buddha mind is always clear and bright. Okay, so it's always clear and bright. There's no slip or anything. It's just a pure state. Okay, of enlightenment and consciousness. And he asked the master, what did they reach at the ultimate stage? The old masters, you know, the Buddha himself and everything. And the master starts laughing. Okay. And he says, well, they were like burglars sneaking into an empty house. Okay, and that's it. So think about that, what does he mean? They're burglars sneaking into an empty house. The obvious inference, I suppose, from that would be, there's nothing there. Burglars are trying to rob an empty house, obviously there's nothing there to rob, so that's the easiest way to think of it, okay? But that's a bit too obvious, isn't it? So how can there be nothing there at all? And we know through pro theory that there's possibility for nothing, something and neutral all simultaneously wrapped up into one. And so what's the answer? Okay, right, what the master was saying about the grandmasters was there's no ultimate stage apart, sort of there's no stop. That's the thing. There's no period or point at which you stop and that's it. There's nothing past that. There's nothing like that really. It's always going to be a change and a flow. And it's always going to be down to your interpretation really of it, and that's the Buddha mind. You see, there's loads and loads of these little koans and stuff, but I particularly like the sound of one hand clapping, and I'm pleased I've seen that Simpsons episode as well. Otherwise, I'd have loads of comments about it, and I'd seem like I didn't know what I was on about, which is quite amusing really. But anyway, and that's the basic idea of these koans, is to give them to a new student. And get them reading them basically, and just meditating on them, which meditation just means deep and unprovoked thought really, in its simplest form. It just means sitting down somewhere quiet and thinking a lot, without getting disturbed, okay, without letting your thoughts disturb you. Then the goal is enlightenment, okay. So as I said, this is going to be about Zen Buddhism particularly. So the ultimate thing of Zen is, it's about nothingness, really, in a sense. As I understand it, that is, okay? There's a lot of different branches of this kind of Buddhism. And it's one of the most popular ones in the Western world, in which I live, I suppose, in England. So, it's about neutrality, really. Ultimately, that's the thing that it's about. It's about the removal of the self. There's a lot of other stories, such as there's a young student, a child, a lad, boy, like, and he keeps putting his finger up to answer these questions all the time in the Buddhism class. Keeps putting his finger up, and then one day his master comes along and chops his finger off. Okay, and says, "There, that's the answer," you know. And this boy, and they all laugh at this lad who's got his finger chopped off, and then this boy understands the way of Zen and becomes a monk. There's another one where a man wants to get into a monastery. A Zen monastery, and the monks won't let him in, so he stays outside and starves himself almost to the point of death, and they still won't let him in. Okay, so he stays outside in the snow, or again almost to the point of death, and they still won't let him in because there's not enough sacrifice of the body. That's what it's about, sacrificing the body and the wants and the desires and the needs of the body and the flesh and everything, okay? For the soul, the spirit. And eventually becomes so desperate to get into the monastery that he hacks his own arm off, okay? He walks up to the door with his own arm in his hand and just a stump on his shoulder, and they're so impressed with his grasp of Zen that they'll let him in. Okay, so what does that mean? That seems extraordinary, doesn't it? It seems cruel, horrible, all these other things, and absolutely horrific, really, to be honest, doesn't it? Okay, like torture or something. But the point of these stories is, they're not necessarily... I mean, I don't know if they're true or not. I doubt it, to be honest. I imagine it's embellished folklore to an extent, anyway. But the point of them is, it's about that complete removal of the self, and complete removal from the self, and from the senses, as in the sense of pain, and the wants and the needs and the desires of the physical body, you see. Because that's what Zen's about. It's about that ultimate stage. And most Buddhism is, although it's not necessarily as extreme as this, its implementation. It's about the ultimate spirit, the ultimate spiritual experience, the ultimate removal from the self completely. And do you know what, there's a reason why people go up mountains, you know, because I've been enlightened myself, okay? And it's true what they say, when you become enlightened, a lot of subconscious material comes up, because it's like the floodgates open in your head, basically. There's no thoughts, you're not able to think anymore. There's no mental blockages left. There's almost no opinions unless you choose to have them. And your head just opens up, and all the thoughts that you've buried long ago start coming up, because obviously the floodgates are open, so it's loosened everything in your head, so it just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing, okay? And as I say, the point of Zen is ultimately sort of nothingness and really neutrality, I suppose, in the sense of life, of the physical life. I've heard stories of Buddhas marching through graveyards every day and stuff to remind themselves of their own mortality. And I've heard stories of family members being denied access to a Buddhist disciple, I suppose, upon the point of death, so that nobody would disturb their perfect Buddha state of mind, which is always clear and bright, as I say. So they'll be there dying and just basically meditating until the point at which they die. Okay, and it's also about the cyclical removal, or removal from the cyclical existence, which means everything goes in a cycle, cycle, circle, same sort of thing really, same sort of meaning. So it's the wheel of life, you know. It's round and round and round and round and round. You're born, created, die, born, created, die, you know, etc. And Buddhism, the original Buddhism anyway, the Buddha, quote unquote, was looking for complete removal from pain and suffering. That was the original point of the original Buddhism, as far as I understand it. Was a complete and ultimate removal from the cycle of existence, pain and consciousness, and a removal from all desires and all wants, which can also cause pain in the mental sense, such as being with a person of the opposite sex or something, that kind of thing. And also, like the 5 tastes, deaden the mouth, deaden the senses and stuff, all sorts. And it's like, I don't know, I'm running out of time now on this video for 10 minutes, but there's more about the koans to say, which is sort of, the more you look at them, the more you study them, the less they seem to make sense. And that's an important thing, because it's about inference, it's about triggering something in the student to make them suddenly become enlightened. It's difficult to explain, obviously, but that's the nature of it, basically, is to make you think in such an extreme way that suddenly you sort of blow apart the framework in your mind that you had before, such as, I'm a person, my name is such and such, I live at this address, all these kind of things, all these normal kind of things, and the normal opinions and the normal worries and wants and desires and everything else, and pain, sort of, the idea is to make them flow away and just disappear, and the floodgates open. Right, I'm really up to my 10 minutes now, so I'll carry on in a second.